Welcome back, students who are taking Math for Business and Finance and Math Applications. And in this set of videos, we are working on the assigned homework problems, which are for Chapter 21, which are the odd numbered problems for the drill problems. And then we'll be working on the word problems. And of course, lastly, doing, let's see here. Yeah, and then the summary practice test. I just happen to be looking at assignment number 22, and there's a challenge problem that needs to be done, but that's for the next chapter. Anyway, so, as always, if you don't understand something, you have the ability to pause, rewind, watch the videos again to pick it all up. And if you still have a question, feel free to contact an instructor either by telephoning or, emailing us. And as always, I'm working through these problems just like I'm a student. So, I noticed that when I did the theory videos for video number 4, I actually had put number 5, and then for number 5, I had put number 6. And then when I went to do number 6, it was like, how come I'm on number 7, but yet there's only 6 videos? So that was the ever popular glitch in the creation of these videos if you've been watching them since the beginning. But if not, doesn't matter. All the material is still there. And I did talk when it came to the theory. I was talking fast. There was a whole bunch to cover. I mean, I could have dragged it out and talked real slow and made everything real nice, and it would have taken, 2 hours to get through some of the stuff. But hopefully you picked it up, and that's the advantage of watching the videos. So here we go into these into the drill problems here, and again, I'm working on them as if I'm a student. So if I make mistakes, I'm only human. All right, so drill problem 21-1. Let me get my pen. Right, it says calculate the cost, omit commission of buying the following shares of stock. Right, 400 shares of General Mills at $379.88. Okay, so the cost is the price of the stock, $379.88, times the 400 shares. So that's 32, I'm sorry, 32, 3, 32, 35, 3, 36, 38, and 39, 3, 28, 21, 28, 31, 3, 12, 15. So the amount of, let's see, 2 decimal places. So let me get that up there a little bit better. So we're talking about $151,952. So it's the price of the stock times the number of shares. Really simple. All right, so 21-3. Calculate the yield of each of the following stocks. Round it to the nearest tenth. So the yield is the dividend. Let me go back and get the exact formula there for you. And again, I kind of do this stuff intuitively. I'm not into memorization, so I understand the concepts of what I'm looking at. I'm looking at a yield, so I'm talking about having a dividend over a price, meaning this is what I'm receiving, and it's based upon whatever the cost is or the price of the stock, which tells me what my yield is. And of course, from day to day to day, this all changes. Even though the dividend may stay the same, the price of the stock changes every day, so the yield changes every day. But anyway, that's the formula. And so what we're looking at here is we're looking at 68 cents over the price of the stock, which is the closing price per share, which is 64.63. And when we divide one by the other, decimal 68 divided by 64.63, I end up with 0.01052, and it's saying to the nearest 10%, so I'm rounding to 1.05. Oh, sorry, 1.1, because this is the nearest tenth, not the nearest hundredth. Okay. Right, so that's that 1.1%. Okay, so dividends divided by the closing price, and then we're rounding to the nearest tenth. All right, next problem. Calculate the earnings per share. Nope, mistaken the to the nearest. That should say the to the nearest whole number. Okay, so calculate the earnings per share, the price to earnings ratio to the nearest whole number, or stock price as needed. Okay, so this has to do, all right. The reason why that's all here is because we're looking at questions 5 and 6, and for 5, we're looking, the chart is saying, okay, here's the company name, here's the earnings per share, here's the closing price, and we're looking for the price to earnings ratio. So the formula for the price to earnings ratio is the price, and and this is what I mean by not having to memorize, just understanding the concept. I mean, we're talking about a price to earnings, and it's a ratio. So it's, when you have a ratio, what you're talking about is doing division, okay? And since it's price to earnings, you put the price on top, and you put the earnings on the bottom, okay? So I just did not have to memorize the price to earnings ratio, okay? Just by understanding the concept and using these little, little, I don't want to say common sense, but being intuitive about what is being asked, I'm able to figure out what I need to know. So in this case here, I have my closing price of $40.13, and that's over my earnings per share, which happens to be $3.15. So I divide one by the other, and I end up with 12.739, but it's telling me to round to the nearest whole number, so that would be 13 as the price to earnings ratio. That's the PE ratio. And the PE ratio, just so you know, is oftentimes you don't really, it's rare that you see the fractions, the decimals. They always round up or down to a whole number for the PE ratio, because having those extra decimal places really doesn't change any of the decision making or the thought process about the PE ratio. To go from a PE ratio from 12 to go up to 13 or down to 11 really doesn't matter. Okay, it's not that much of a difference. But if you went from 12 to 25, now that makes a big difference. Okay, but so that's why having, like, your decimal places here, you don't really need them that much, because you're not so concerned with that small amount of a movement when you're talking about price to earnings ratio. Okay, all right, moving on. Let's see how many there is. We'll go up to 15. Okay, I'm just looking at the time here. All right, it says calculate the total cost of buying 400 shares of CVS at $59.38 and assume a 2% commission. So this here is pretty much the same as our first problem, except in the first problem we didn't have a commission, right? So you're taking the $59.38 and you're multiplying it by 400 shares to get your total cost of the shares. 2, 3, it's 15, 36, 37, 3. All right, so we're talking about $23,752 is the price of the shares. Okay, and now we have a 2% commission. So we have to, we're going to multiply this by 1.02. Okay, now in case you don't remember why we're multiplying this by 1.02, I mean, I could take the 23,752 and multiply it by the 2% and come up with, let's see, 23,752 times 0.02 and come up with 475.04. Okay, but this is the price of the stock, and this is the commission, and I have to add the two together in order to get the total amount. So the total cost of purchasing that stock. So I add the 23,752 to this, and I end up with 0, 4, 7, 12, 11, 12, 4. I end up with 24,227.04 is my total cost. Okay, but notice what I just did. It took me a bunch more steps. I multiplied by 2%, then I had to add back in order to get that number. But if I'm going to assume a 2% commission, we're adding the 2% over and above the price of the stock. And remember, when we're talking about percentages, 1.0 is the same as 100%. So 100% of 23, that's what this 1 here represents, and that's the 0.02 is the 2% commission. So when I multiply, I only have to do one step now instead of doing a whole bunch of these other steps. If I take the 23,752, 23,752, and I multiply it by 1.02, I only have to do the one calculation, and I add 23,752 times 1.02. I'm hitting my calculator, and I come up with the same exact number. Okay, get this. End up with 24,227.04. Okay, so by taking and just doing that one little mental step with the 2% here, because remember, 100% of 23, that's that 1, and then add the 2%. It's just that little mental glitch, little mental adjustment, and allows me only to do one step in punching into the calculator to come up with the same exact number, instead of having to play around and writing numbers down and so on and so forth. You can see how much shorter that is. Okay, and that was kind of like covered way back in chapter 2 or 3 or whatever. We were talking about percentages, but it's applicable in this particular circumstance also. Okay, so with that, I'm going to stop here, and I will pick up with the next problem in the next video.